Is running the full signal to the sub wrong? Well, here's another good question, and it also comes from Mumbai, India, as we had in yesterday's, but this one is from Mohit. And Mohit writes, "Hey Paul, thanks for making these videos and answering our burning questions." Burning questions, I love it. And you're most certainly welcome, sir. Your answers are really concise and almost always logical. Thank you. I needed a good oh, I love it. I have a pair of B&W bookshelf speakers that sound very good, but I've been thinking that I should add a sub to bring more life to the low end. Yes, you should. Even though my speakers go as low as 50 hertz, but if we do that, there will always be a frequency range that'll be played by both the subwoofer and the main speakers. That's correct. Will that not cause the bass to become even worse? Shouldn't the whole point of connecting a subwoofer be to have the entire low end being played by it only? Well, yes and no. By the way, with forgiveness to our Ohm's Law listeners, here's, this is, I don't know if you've been able to see this, but that's the cool insides of the stellar phono stage. Isn't that neat? See all the, we talked before about all the passive stuff. See, these are all passive components. This is one killer phono stage, and it's our first purple board. All right, woofers. Well, yeah, you want the subwoofer to handle the lower frequencies. So in a lot of home theater applications, they advise you to lop off the bottom of your main speakers so that only the subs are doing the work, hence making an easier job of your full range loudspeakers. And that's a practice I am not in favor of. I really don't like it. And there's a whole bunch of reasons why, which we don't need to get into right now. My preference is always to run your speakers the way they were designed. And if they weren't designed well, get a different pair of speakers. But let's assume that B&Ws are certainly designed well. So you've got well-designed speakers. Their job is to go down to their 50 hertz and then start to roll off, right? And where they roll off, they start sloping down like that. So it's not like they just cut off, which, by the way, I have found a lot of people kind of think that when it says it only goes down to 50 hertz or so, then it just falls off like a stone after that. And that's not what happens. That just doesn't exist. So what actually happens is you'll go along, you know, bump, 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 and then there will be a point that we call the minus 3 dB point. That's where the speaker's response starts rolling off, and it's at that point where it's 3 dB down. That's what they're calling out at 50 hertz, right? And then from there, it continues rolling off at a certain prescribed slope, which could be 12 dB per octave, 6 dB per octave, 18, I mean, who knows? But it'll continue rolling off and continue down into some lower frequencies at lower and lower volumes as the frequency gets lower and lower, okay? So there's a cutoff point, and then it starts rolling off. What you want to do with your sub is the opposite, right? You want the top of the sub, which we would call a low pass filter. So it's passing everything low below a certain point to come in at a certain slope. In other words, it doesn't come in instantly. It too follows the same sort of curve, but in reverse. So it starts out kind of slow, and then it builds up to a point where at its minus 3 dB point, and then it's going to continue down flat, right? And by blending the two curves at exactly the right point, you wind up with a flat response. Kind of make sense? So what you're worried about is both speakers playing at the same frequency at the same time and having this massive hump. And you should be worried about that. That's why we have crossovers on subs. So you take your subs crossover and you run it up as high as you can till you start hearing that bump, and then you pull it back down till you don't. And then remember, turn the volume control on the sub and make its placement so that we don't hear the sub. We only hear the main speakers going low in frequency, so it sounds like there is no sub, but all of a sudden your little B&Ws have this subterranean bass. That's when you got it. Okay, good luck. Thanks for the question, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.